are now dead. That's
yeah,
number one.
But this is Iran.
Look, the world of high-stakes politics just got a reality check that left everyone in the room stunned. Forget the talking points. This is about the raw, cold truth of what happens when the lines are finally crossed. Stop what you're doing and watch this reporter get absolutely leveled by facts.
You told us that Israel was going to strike Iran and that's why we needed to get involved. Today, the president said that Iran was going to get
Yeah, your statement is false. So that's not what I was asked very specifically. Were you there yesterday?
Yes, I asked a question.
No, were you the one that, because somebody asked me a question yesterday, did we go in because of Israel? And I said, you were asking me that follow-up. And I said, no. I told you this had to happen anyway. The president made a decision, and the decision he made was that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ballistic missile program, that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ability to conduct these attacks. That decision had been made. The president systematically made a decision to systematically destroy this terroristic capability that they had, and we carried that out. I was very clear in that answer. This was a question of timing, of why this had to happen as a joint operation, not the question of the intent. Once the president made a decision that negotiations were not going to work, that they were playing us on the negotiations, and that this was a threat that was untenable, the decision was made to strike them. That's what I said yesterday, and you guys need to play it. If you're going to play these statements, you need to play the whole statement, not clip it to reach a narrative that you want to do, all right? No, but you have to read, if you're going to read the whole statement.
But your quote is about, we knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that would precipitate an attack.
Yeah, no, I understand. But listen, all right, let me understand. Yeah, but I had a very specific question from that gentleman, right?
The president said, the president said that.
Hold on one second. I asked a very
force Israelis.
Okay, but let me answer, because this is my press conference. Sure. Okay. You asked me, I was asked a very specific question, so you guys can misrepresent it, but I was asked a very specific question yesterday. The bottom line is this. The president determined we were not going to get hit first. It's that simple, guys. We are not going to put Americans' troops in harm's way. If you tell the president of the United States that if we don't go first, we're going to have more people killed and more people injured, the president's going to go first. That's what he did. That's what the president will always do. He will always put the safety and security of our men and women in uniform and of all Americans before anything else. He's always going to do that, and that's what he did here. In addition to that, I would argue that this threat from Iran, they are hiding behind these missiles and hiding behind these drones. They wanted to reach a point where you couldn't touch them, and then they could do whatever the hell they wanted with their nuclear program. And there is no way in the world that this terroristic regime was going to get nuclear weapons, not under Donald Trump's watch.
So the U.S. attack.
Marco Rubio is literally not playing games here. Did you see the look on his face when that reporter tried to frame the narrative? He calls it out immediately. Your statement is false. This is peak political theater, but with actual stakes. What's wild is how he pivots from the Israel made us do it trap to the core logic. American intelligence showed a threat, so they moved first. Notice the body language. He's leaning in, practically lecturing the room on National Security 101. It's a masterclass in shutting down a leading question before it even finishes. You have to wonder if the media expected him to be this aggressive after the briefing. He's essentially saying the era of hiding behind proxies is over. It's not just about Iran. It's a message to every journalist in that room that the old talking points aren't going to fly anymore. Keep an eye on the reporter's stunned silence after that first no.
Last year didn't help move forward those objectives of deterring the regime. Why do we think that suddenly this is going to do the same thing?
Okay, Scott Jennings just dropped the coldest line of the year. When Abby Phillip asks why this strike is any different from last year's, he doesn't miss a beat. Because the people who weren't deterred are now dead. That is a total mic drop moment that left the entire panel speechless for a second. You can see the tension in the studio. It's that raw, unfiltered reality of military strategy that people usually try to sanitize. He's arguing that deterrence isn't just a concept, it's about physical capability. If the leaders making the decisions are gone, the dynamic doesn't just change, it disappears. It's a brutal way to look at it, but he's pointing out a flaw in the typical, let's talk it out argument. Watch how he stays calm while the host tries to pivot to the invasion language. He's standing his ground on the targeted campaign distinction, which is a massive legal hurdle they're debating in real time.
Strikes against Iran, did that pull the United States into this war?
No, I might have forced their hand. You see,
we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that. And we have great negotiators, great people that do this very successfully and have done it all their lives very successful. And based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first. And a big factor in this world and future factor is what we're doing right now with Iran. If we don't stop them, or if we didn't stop them, or if we didn't start, they've been decimated. But if we didn't do what we're doing right now, you would have had a nuclear war, and they would have taken out many countries. Because you know what? They're sick people. They're mentally ill, sick people. They're angry. They're crazy. They're sick.
Trump is back to his classic negotiation rhetoric, and whether you love him or hate him, you have to admit the framing is intense. He's calling the Iranian leadership lunatics and mentally ill, which is a huge shift from the diplomatic language we've heard for years. But look at the logic he's using. Preemptive strike to avoid a nuclear war. He's essentially saying that waiting for a first strike wasn't an option because the stakes are total annihilation. It's that strongman approach that defined his first term, now being applied to a hot zone. Did you catch the part where he says he might have forced Israel's hand instead of the other way around? That's a massive claim. He's positioning himself as the primary driver of global security, not a follower. It's high-stakes poker, and he's telling the world he's the one holding all the cards and isn't afraid to bet the house to keep a nuke out of Tehran.
Tell me, Saudi Arabia is very close to allowing its Air Force to strike targets inside Iran after facing unprecedented missile and drone attacks on its civilians, including incoming missiles today targeting Daman, its fifth largest city. Quote, the next 24 hours is going to be intense, I'm told. A line has been crossed.
This is the part that should have everyone's attention, the breaking report about Saudi Arabia. If the Saudis actually join this coalition, the entire map of the Middle East changes overnight. We're talking about the fifth largest city, Dammam, being targeted by missiles, which is why they're finally crossing that line. This isn't just a US-Iran thing anymore. It's becoming a regional coalition. Look at the gravity of the unprecedented attacks mentioned. When Saudi Arabia starts clearing its air force for strikes inside Iran, you know the situation has escalated beyond typical border skirmishes. It's a historic shift in alignment. The 24-hour window mentioned by the official is a ticking clock. It's rare to see this kind of overt coordination between the US, Israel, and Saudi Arabia all at once. This isn't just news. It's a tectonic shift in global power dynamics that could last for decades.
If you have any part to play in the American military-industrial complex, literally, fuck you. I hope you never make it home.
Check out this clip that's been circulating. This young lady is going absolutely scorched earth on anyone involved in the military-industrial complex. The language she uses, I hope you never make it home, is some of the most extreme rhetoric you'll see on the platform. It really highlights the massive cultural divide in the country right now regarding foreign intervention. While the politicians are debating war powers and constitutional law, this is the raw emotion bubbling up on the ground. It's a jarring contrast to the formal press conferences we just saw. You can see why this kind of content goes viral. It's designed to provoke a massive reaction, and it definitely succeeds. It's fascinating and a bit terrifying to see how deep the resentment goes for some people, to the point of wishing ill on soldiers. It really puts the political debate into a much more personal and, unfortunately, more toxic light.
Well, I don't know if there's a worst case. We have them very much beaten militarily from the military standpoint. They're still lobbing some missiles. At some point, they won't even be able to do that because we're hitting all of their carriers. We're hitting all of their missile stock. You know, they built up all these missiles over the last few years. They had a lot of them. They've shot a lot of them, and we're knocking out a lot. I guess the worst case would be we do this and then somebody takes over who's as bad as the previous person, right? That could happen. We don't want that to happen. It would probably be the worst. You go through this and then in 5 years you realize you put somebody in who was no better. So we'd like to see somebody in there that's going to bring it back for the people. And we'll see what happens with the people.
Do you have someone in mind right now? Because you said all the people you did have in mind have been taken out. What do you think?
Well, most of the people we had in mind are dead. So, you know, we had some in mind from that group that is dead. And now we have another group. They may be dead also, based on reports. So I guess you have a third wave coming in. Pretty soon we're not going to know anybody. But we have, I mean, Venezuela was so incredible.
Trump is breaking down the worst-case scenario here, and it's surprisingly philosophical for a press gaggle. He's talking about the cycle of leadership, how you can take someone out, but the next person might be just as bad or worse. It's the 5-year realization he mentions that's the real kicker. He's acknowledging the difficulty of nation building without actually saying the word. But look at his confidence regarding the military side. He's convinced the top brass is already decimated. He even cracks a joke about the third wave coming and how they won't even know who they're fighting soon because they're going through the ranks so fast. It's a very blunt assessment of attrition warfare. You can tell he's more comfortable talking about military beats and missile stocks than the nuances of constitutional law. He's focused on results, not the process, which is exactly why the opponents are so focused on the legality of it all.
Any president can take self-defense, but to wage offensive war, the framers of the Constitution were absolutely plain. It's been understood since 1787. You got to come to Congress. That doesn't mean every president has, and it certainly doesn't mean that every Congress has guarded that prerogative. But I've always pledged that I would.
Right, okay. But it's almost a moot point. He's at least has probably 60 days under certain provisions to carry things out. And if we did go your route, Senator, what's happened over the past 3 days is impossible. It could never happen. Even informing Congress at times about certain raids or actions that have to be done in secret, that's not in the real world. It's not possible. So in the real world,
Joe,
but is this going to be a good? But is it possible down the road you'll look back and say, this was a transformative move. The world is a better place. Iran is, the Middle East is a better place. So many, and I'm not saying it'll get there. It's probably be a long road and years, and it could get messy. It could be Iraq. I'm not saying it. But will you look back on it and say that took a lot of courage for the president to do that, and it was the right thing? Could that ever happen?
Let me just underline the fact that I made an argument about the Constitution, and you said it was a moot point. I don't believe that. I don't believe the Constitution is a minor matter or a moot point.
I said it's already happened. I said it's already happened, and he's got 60 days, and I don't think...
No. If the War Powers Resolution passes, hostilities stop. That's what the law says. And I'm asking every senator to do what you should ask them to do. Go on the record and declare, are you for this or against this?
Now we get into the heavy legal lifting with Senator Tim Kaine. He's citing the 1787 framers and the Constitution to argue that this is an illegal, offensive war. It's a classic separation of powers argument that we've seen since the Vietnam era. But watch the interviewers' pushback. They're talking about the real world, where informing Congress about every rapid-fire raid is physically impossible. That tension between the letter of the law and the speed of modern warfare is the whole crux of the debate. Kaine is trying to force an on-the-record vote for every senator, which is a genius political move to make people pick a side. It's the War Powers Resolution in action. Even if you find the legal talk dry, the stakes are huge. If he's right, the president could face actual legal consequences. If he's wrong, the executive branch just got a lot more powerful. It's the ultimate rules versus reality showdown. This situation is moving fast. If you want to stay on top of the real-world impact of these strikes, hit that follow button. Catch you in the next one.